here in the videos here, it's Hollywood. Zera. Is it really? Oh wow!
So now hundreds of people, thousands can watch it.
Really? Wow.
Oh wow!
It's not live. It's gonna go. It's gonna upload it.
Where are you yourself?
Oh wow! Oh wow! Baruch Hashem.
Just put this to your
How
tie.
will you sound it?
Oh, just put that on your tie.
Put this on my tie.
Yep.
Okay.
Professional over here.
Okay, 1 second. Let me have this seat. How are we doing with reading the things?
No, tie's better.
Where do you want me to put it?
Right on the tie. Anywhere.
That one's not
Perfect.
Okay.
This one needs to get that. But brothers, continue. Yitzchak, Yaakov, and Rachel, Velvo, Shana, and Yisrael, Velvo. Speak about that. Yisrael. News and Nachman, Esther, Zivik, Shimon, Miriam, Mordechai, Miriam,
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol nived b'orei. Mayor's here. Oops. Yes, is all it in? That's it. Baruch Hashem.
For 1 second and you're home. That's it.
Hey, you can't manage what's happening.
Oh, you got the memo?
No.
Okay. No, I'm saying this was Rabbi Chaim. He arranged that it's going to be on Kol.
Oh wow.
I'm sorry. It's going to be on Torah.
Torah anytime.
So that's why we're taking a video. That's
Okay.
why
It's not live.
First father. It's not live though.
Okay.
So it's being recorded, and they're going to.
Where is this? Is it say it over here?
No, because I was just told about it now.
Okay.
I told you he was sponsoring it. It's his mother's yard site.
Okay, today? David, when's the yard site?
Tuesday, God willing. I'm going to Israel.
Wow. Baruch Hashem. When now? Okay, so my Rabbi said, let's get going. So first of all, good evening, my Rabbi said. Tonight's Zera Shimshon is sponsored. Ilay Nishmas Maras Esther Bas Reb Avraham. That's Reb David's mother, whose yard site is on Tuesday. Today's Shiur and all the schuyot that we have, Baruch Hashem, to teach Torah B'Rabim should be Le'ilay Nishmasa. Also, for Zivig, Nachain, V'Hagon, B'Karev Mamish, for Rivka Tziro Bas Eidela Menucha, and Rivka Rikkel Bas Batsheva. Additionally, there's an operation going on right now. Is that what you said? There's an operation, right? When is that? What's the name? Yisrael ben Esther Tova. The Rebbe Shem's all help from the doctor should be matzliach, and he should have a refuah shalema. Yeshua's the besuras Torah's lachenu kol Beis Yisrael v'shalom al kol Am Yisrael. Amen. I want to thank Rabbi Kitei for organizing and welcome Torah anytime to our Zera Shimshon Shiur. This is refuah shalema for Tzvi Tovia ben Reb Ben Rivka. Tzvi Tovia ben Rivka for refuah shalema. Bekarev. Okay, Meir Rabbi Sai, tonight's sugya, What we're going to learn about is the midah of anova, humility, and all the benefits of being humble in so many aspects of a person's life. Literally, berachnius ubegashmius. In this, the background, it's Zera Shimshon Parshas Ba'aloischa, page Kuf Ayin Vav, letter Vav, please. Kuf Ayin Vav, letter Vav, V'ha'ish Moshe Anav Me'oid. And Moshe was tremendously humble. Anav Me'oid. Now, what's the background? In Parshas Ba'aloischa, towards the end of the Parsha, the Torah Kedoshim Perek Yud Beis says, "Vatidaber Miriam va'Aaron b'Moshe al oidish ha'isha hakushis asher lokach, ki isha kushis lokach." Miriam and Aharon were upset. They had a claim, a taina, on Moshe Rabbeinu. The story goes, Moshe, in the earlier part of the parsha, asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu for some help. It was too difficult for him to carry Klal Yisrael on his shoulders. Klal Yisrael had began to complain. They needed food, they needed this. And Moshe Rabbeinu said, I gave birth to them. Ich bin der Mame. Why am I running this all by myself? And the Rebbeinu Shalom agreed and said, we're going to give you Shivim Zikanim. And they're going to get a little bit of your ruach, of your nevuah. HaKadosh Baruch Hu was ma'atzil. He took some of the nevuah of Moshe and put it onto the Shivim. There were 2 people who didn't make it into the group of 70, but prophesied independently, Eldad Umeidad. And Tzipora Eishes Moshe, and Miriam were standing together. And Miriam overheard Tzipora give a little krechts. You know what that is? A little, a sigh. More than that. It's a Yiddish krechts probably has no definition in any other language.
You know.
That's right.
You know.
Gave a krechts nebuch to their wives. They're probably going to be all alone just like me. Pachoto yoter, that's what Tzipora said. Miriam found out that Moshe Rabbeinu had separated himself from his wife. He did it not because he wanted to, he was commanded. The Rebbeinu Shalom said, you now are on call for Klal Yisrael. You stopped being a private person. You now became an ish tziburi completely. No one was given that heter. Aaron was an ish tziburi. Aaron was the Kohen Gadol. Miriam was the Rebbitzin of Klal Yisrael. Vatikach Miriam Hanaviyah. She had a husband. Moshe Rabbeinu was given this commandment. They weren't aware where it came from. And Miriam didn't realize that the Rebbeinu Shalom had said this. And Miriam mistakenly thought that her brother was at fault for separating himself from the Tzipora. So, as the parasha, this portion begins, "Vatidaber Miriam v'Aaron b'Moshe al oides isha kushas v'yomru," and they said, "Harak ach b'Moshe diber Hashem, halegam bonu diber v'yishma Hashem, v'gam bonu diber." We're all neviim. Klal Yisrael at that time was a Dorodea. Everybody saw the Rebbeinu Shalom. Miriam also said, "Hashir Hashem ki goya go sus v'rechrama v'yam." Aaron HaKohen had the choshen on his chest. He was wired in, like I'm wired over here, lahavdol. He was wired in, right, mamish, but directly up above, mamish. So, was tut zachda? This is Miriam's time. Vayishma Hashem. And then the Torah interrupts, so to speak, the story and gives a piece of information, a narrative. Va'ish Moshe onav me'oid mekol ha'adam asher al pnei ha'adama. Moshe Rabbeinu was the most humble person, al pnei kol ha'adama. That interesting lashon, al pnei kol ha'adama, the Zera Shimshon's, he was the onav me'oid. What does the Chumash add by this knech al pnei, on the face of the land? He was the most, and in heaven there were more anavs. He was the most humble person. Va'ish Moshe anav ma'od. Let's pick up. And so what happens? Vayomer Hashem pitom el Moshe vel Aaron vel Miriam. I want all three of you out. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells off Miriam. Shimuna devarim yenevechem Hashem b'mar elav esvada b'chaloi medaber boy. When I speak to you, Miriam, when I speak to you, Aaron, you get it, but it's in a dream. Bechalom, in a dream, adaber boy. Loi kein avdi Moshe kol beisoy neman hu. He has a connection with me. Pe el pe adaber boy. I speak to him like two people, like a person speaks to his friend. As we're sitting here together, Rabbi Isai, and we're all here together. Kacha. That's the way I speak to Moshe Rabbeinu. With clarity, mare, veloy bechidos, without any riddles. Utmunas Hashem yabet, he can see more than anybody else can see. Tmunas Hashem, like the picture of Hashem. Umadua lo yirisim ledaber ba'avdi Moshe. Why don't you have respect? Why don't you have any respect? Madua lo yirisim ledaber b'Moshe avdei. It would seem that Miriam and Aharon, because he's included, didn't understand the madrega of nevuah of Moshe Rabbeinu. Didn't understand where Moshe Rabbeinu set the record straight. If you pay attention to the end of the Torah Kedosha, when the Torah gives a little bit of a eulogy on Moshe Rabbeinu, and it tells us about his accomplishments, like come Navi Oid Bisor Kemoshe Asher Yodai Hashem Panim El Panim. This concept of face to face, peh el peh, b'maris Hashem yabit, that's what they say about Moshe. And what does it come from? His anivus. Because as the Torah Kedosha says, onav ma'od. How does anova bring that madrega? And obviously what we need to know is if the Torah Kedosha is telling us this story, what does it mean for me and you? What are we supposed to do about it? With this introduction, Lamerzen de Zera Shimshon. Zug de Heilige Zera Shimshon. Vayish Moshe Anamoid Kasha. Why ma inyan zelakan? The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu, the fact that Miriam and Aaron are saying lashon hara about Moshe, speaking negatively about him. Why does he have to be an onav? You can't speak negative about anybody, whether they're an onav or not an onav. Lashon hara is asur. Says the Zera Shimshon, if maybe the point is that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say anything because he's an onav, if that's the point, well, you don't have to be the biggest onav in the world not to say anything. Smaller onavs, there are other people, they're average onavs. There are many people sitting over here, amech kulam tzadikim, they're not the gresta onav, but they still don't answer back. They know not to answer back. Onav yoser mikol adam. You don't have to be the biggest onav to get to such a madrega. Many people do that, right? Nachon Reb Meir. Many people could do that. Besides for that, I have another question. Aharon u Miriam. What were they thinking? As we read the pasuk, Haloi gam banu diber be'emes Rabbi Sai asks the Zera Shimshon, do they really think they're on the madrega of Moshe? I mean, Who is the one who went up to Shamayim to get the Torah? Who went up? Miriam went up. Aaron went up. Moshe went up. So what are you thinking? What's Moshe? It's like a tekashe. As I break the Zera Shimshon. Look what he did. Look what he accomplished. He went up to Shamayim. You didn't. What are you thinking? Says the Zera Shimshon, I want to tell you your sight. I'll tell you where their mistake came from. They knew that Moshe Rabbeinu went up, but they thought he was awarded that and anybody could have it. HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to give the Torah. You need to be a big tzaddik. Moshe was a big tzaddik, for sure, 100%. But there are many tzaddikim. If he would have chosen stuff, Aaron could have done it too. The fact that he went up, sometimes a person is given a big zchus, not for himself. You know, there's a very famous story with the Sajiger Rebbe. Sajiger Rebbe, the old one, was a Baal Meifus. He had a few Balabatim Gvirim. They were very wealthy, and when people would come to the Rebbe and they would need tzedakah, for the Rebbe hat nicht kein Geld, but the Rebbe would send to his Balabatim. One particular Erev Shabbos, an Almana came. Baruch Hashem, she had 2 of her children became chasanim. She had twin boys, both became chasanim. And she had no money. She was an almana. She had no husband. And she said, I need, what it was, Beis, I don't know, 10,000 rubles or whatever it was, I need. So the Rebbe called in one of his gaboim right away. Bring Yena Gvir. This mitzvah is going to be for Yena Gvir. So he calls in Yena Gvir and tells him, listen, this and this almana needs this and this amount of money. Please take care of it. Okay? He says, I take care of it after Shabbos. No problem. It's Ken Zayin noch Shabbos. After Shabbos, he gives her half the amount. Instead of giving her 10,000, he gave her 5, 2.5 per kid, which is very nice. Aber nicht was der Rebbe gesagt. Later that week, he had a big mapola in his business. And he immediately connected the dots. Immediately, at Ziegestellt. So he ran to the Rebbe and says, the Rebbe didn't tell me how, I was having a little bit of a hard time with my business, I was a little tight on cash, but if the Rebbe would have told me how important it was, of course I would have stretched myself. And the Sajiger Rebbe said to him, Du machst atos. You're making a mistake. You have more money than you need. What do you need all that money for? What do you need all that money for? The teretz is, I have to give tzedakah because everybody comes to me. You're my tzinor, you're my shaliach. That's our deal. If you don't want to be my shaliach, everybody found me other shluchim. It's okay. You don't have to be my shliach. What you have, you think you have it because it belongs to there, because it belongs to you. You don't need so much. I told you to give it to her, you didn't want. Beseder, she got it already from somebody else. So Miriam and Aaron said, the Rebbeinu Shalom needs someone to come up to Shamayim and bring down the Torah. Moshe Rabbeinu, your dagger, you're so big. Your dagger is because you needed to be the shaliach. We're also shluchim. We're also shluchim. Gam anachnu shluchim. But whatever they, so therefore, look at the lashon of the Zera Shimshon. Shehem ha'yesayvim shema shezoicha la'alos l'shamayim lo yehoya b'shvil schus atzmoi. It wasn't his own schus, el b'shvil schus Yisrael. Sheyeshliach shalahem. Like the Gevir. Like Yena Gevir, you're a shliach of the Rebbe. So therefore you have that money to be able to give out what the Rebbe needs. So therefore you're doing that. Who want it over here? Anybody there, Benjamin, you just have to be a big tzaddik and you'll be able to go up to Shemaim. Kacha chashav Miriam, that's what Miriam Azoit Miriam getracht. Kid, I mean, you was Eliezer.
Hashem pick Moshe, he can pick anybody else.
I know, we're getting Eliezer. Beis. Baal, we're getting there. Kid, I mean, we're talking about their mistake. Leich Reid. And the Gemara says that when Moshe Rabbeinu was told that Klal Yisrael made the Egel Leich Reid, what does it mean? My leich, Moshe, klum natati lecha gedula b'shvul Yisrael, achshav sheshua chotu lama lecha gedula. You're only the Groise Moshe Rabbeinu because I want Klal Yisrael to learn, and I want them to have a Rebbe. If I don't need Yisrael, I don't need you either. Leich reid. So go down, meaning Einochanami. Chazal say, Rashi brings down when Klal Yisrael was been a zifa for 38 years in the Midbar, the Kodesh Baruch Hu didn't speak to Moshe Rabbeinu. Could you imagine? Yeah, take a look in Rashi, coming up in a few parshas. For 38 years. We're not going to have a cup of coffee, Moshe. No, you mean when I need you to talk to Klal Yisrael, I need to talk to you. If you're not talking to Klal Yisrael, Moshe was Kilu ben Nazifa. Why? Because his whole job is to service Bnei Yisrael. So Miriam and Aharon's mistake, let's be clear. Miriam and Aharon's mistake was they knew Moshe Rabbeinu had a greater level of nevuah. They knew that Moshe Rabbeinu had access to the Baruch Shem the way they didn't, but they attributed that to the fact that Baruch Shem needs a shliach. He decided to choose Moshe. V'harai, and when Moshe Rabbeinu, and when Klal Yisrael is not on the Medrash, I don't need a shliach. So Neinachanami, Moshe is nisht. That was their mistake. What's the teretz? Kanireli, as you've been hanging around Zera Shimshon for a while, you're on track. That's their mistake. Thinking that anybody could have, not anybody, but other anam, other shluchim. V'lechein ba'akasav la'hayris anu she'enai kein. Ela she'moishe zocha be'atzmai lahalas l'rekia shaya onav ma'oid. You should know that Moshe Rabbeinu's anivus is what got him up to Shamayim. Yoyse mikol adam umitam zeh zocha liyoy shliach la'Yisrael ha'mokem. That's why he was zoicha. Somebody else, you need the anivus to be the shliach. Kidamrinam besoita, the Gemara says, Tu pshatim, chad amar ani esdaka. The Rebbeinu Shalom says when he sees a person who's low, either the Rebbeinu Shalom says, I pick him up to me, or Rebbeinu Shalom says, ani esdak, I go down to him. I lower myself. Now, tonight, we have Berger a great Simcha tonight. One of my Talmidim, a 43-year-old Bucher, Surly Gelb, got engaged to I think a 35 or 36-year-old girl. First time for both, Baruch Hashem. So instead of the Maral Shiur, we're going to be going, after this, I'm going to be going to give Shevach Vador to the Rabbeinu Shalom and go go wish them Mazel Tov. But therefore, I want to share one or two marals incorporating the Zera Shimshon. Listen to this, fascinating. Zog the maral. Do you want to know the mile of Anivus? Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Who do we paskin like Rabbi say? Beis Hillel, correct? What was the Maila of Hillel and Beis Hillel? They were always humble. Anivus. Take a look what the Gemara says. Beperek kama de'erevin. Show, this is my Maharal Shiur right now. It's happening. This is the Maharal. It's Mama Sharan Kim of Gittin Sad. Mepnei ma zochu Beis Hillel likvoya halocha kamoisan. Why and how was Beis Hillel, why did they get the nod? Why were Beis Hillel the ones that were chosen? Says the Mishnah the following things. Number one, Mipnei shenoichin hein, because they were easy. Shammai haya kaptanim, makpidim. Right? Somebody came to the door of the Gemara in Shabbos over there, teach me Torah regalach. The Shammai said, Mata, what are you wasting my time? Beis Hillel said, no. Beis Hillel were nochim, noach, easy. One, aluvim hein. They would get aluv. How do we translate aluv? Okay, aluv. How do we say aluv in English? I got all these. What? No, aluv, aluvim. It's a maila of Beis Hillel. Aluvim came, aluvim mit ayin, ayin lamed vav. They were like, they had embarrassment. Busha. V'shoinim divreihem v'divrei Beis Shammai. They always let you know what the other opinion was. They didn't just say their opinion, they said the other person's opinion, and they said the other opinion first. They always gave credibility to the other opinion. So they had these milas. They were noach, they were easy, they were busha, they always made sure to say the other person's opinion and did it first. Okay, ask the Maral a very basic Pashat Kasha. As a very Pashat Kasha. Do you know how you paskin halacha? How do we paskin halacha, Rabbi Isai? What do? We do what's emes, right? We don't paskin like people because they're nice guys. Psak halacha is not based, who ben adam tov, I want to paskin like him. It's emes. Emes to be a mishpat. Oh, but Aaron's a nice guy, let's paskin like him. Bunch of nice people, they open up the door for you. Kachazeh, what's going on? Frek the Maral. Yesh lishon, ma inyan zeh shtei halacha kemoisa. B'shvil shoy mashpilem atzmoi. Because they mashpil themselves. Ein rosh shtei halacha kemoison. Ki halacha toli bazeh shatayra. Whoever knows what understand is right. Because you're maktin yourself. The teretz is, Torah is Torah's emes. If a person doesn't have a sense of self, and he or she is always looking for the truth, they'll have the siyata d'shmaya to get the emes. The midas toivos of Beis Hillel brought them to the emes. Because they had the emes, therefore the halacha was like them. It was a catalyst. Let's read the Heilige Werte of the Maharal. Let's see what he says. Zokter, because she'elu dvarim, the fact that they said Beis Shammai's words first, they mentioned them, that means there was honesty and integrity. You know what that means? They were honest and they told, that's the siba that the dvarim should be dvarim amitiyim. Because they have midas toivos, and therefore it's not about zich. When a person wird aufgeregt, when a person gets angry, when a person gets bekas, what happens? Harei mekoyach hakas nira sheroitza lahachzik devorov. I'm right. So he moves away from the truth. He moves away from the emes. B'dvorav b'yad chazaka v'roitze linatseach. You know what that means? He wants to win. It's good for playing basketball, it's good for baseball, it's fine, right? But not when it comes to Torah. Not when it comes to Torah. When it comes to Torah, it's called Torah's emes. So the more humble the person is, the more emestic they are. The more emestic they are, the more they're mechaven to the Rabbeinu Shalom. That's the key, says the Maharal. Because they were aluvim, which means to say because they were willing to hear what other people said and give credibility. Maybe I'm wrong. Ulani lo tzodek. Bo nishma ma shata omer. Let me what you have to say. Meir Rabbi say, every single married person, those of us who are married, those of us who are not yet married, Alevation, that when you have communication, Miken hear and one person hears what the other person hears, so then you have a chance for Shalom Bayis, Baruch Hashem. But if a person is bekas, A person can't hear, so then forget about it. Because they're not hearing the other person, they're not, we're supposed to look at that. You want to help me over here? You mean you have to recognize that she's allowed to have another opinion? And yeah, that doesn't work that way.
She's right, you always win.
Alts get the humility that a person has brings you closer to the Rabbeinu Shalom. Soon, the Zera Shimshon quotes a Gemara. The Gemara says that when a person has B'zeh yivar d'chsiv v'shamartem es chukoysev es mishpat asher yasu odom v'chai b'em ani Hashem. Korsinem b'soite kol odom sheyesh by gasus ruach. A person who has gasus ruach is ki'ilu oiva kol harayis kofar be'ikar. Listen to the words of the Maral. Mordechai, listen to this. Kol odom sheyesh by gasus ruach kilo oiva avodah zora. Says the Maral. This is Soita Dalar Amid Beis. Yesh l'chol hadas. I want you to know. Ki kol goy v'alev. When a person, what do you mean? The Sajigor Rebbe told me to give money, but ich verstehe besser. I understand better, right? I'm not going to listen to the Rebbe. Soon we'll see. I want to tell you another story. Kol goy v'alev yotza mirshus ha'ola. You're out of the Rabbeinu Shalom's rishus. Ki einoi tachas rishus hakadosh baruch hu. A person who is humble and understands that Rabbeinu Shalom runs the world, he's taking care of me, so you're in his rishus. Why? Rak asher mashpil atzmai ozu tachas rishus hakadosh baruch hu. When a person is humble, so who owns you? Who takes it? You're in Hashem's rishus. But aval kasher hu goy v'alev ki'ilu yotzem rishus hakadosh baruch hu. You're not in the Rabbeinu Shalom's rishus. Kach katuv b'Maral. Goy v'alev oived avodah zara. You're on your own, buddy. You're on your own. Rabbi Waxman. Ma? It disgusts him. Ephraim Waxman, Rabbi Waxman, shlita. And this week at Adirei Torah, I had the schus to go. I drove 2 hours to Philadelphia to the Wells Fargo Arena. 30,000 people. What pride to be surrounded by people that all they want to do is mivakshe ha'emes. They're looking for emes. They're looking for the truth. They spend their whole lives, them, their wives, their family, for what? To learn Torah's emes. He told over the following small story. It's so small, but it's so big. He said like this. He said, I was, for a few years ago, I had to go visit family member in Maimonides. And I was coming out of the building in the parking lot. And I see, with my own eyes, a very well-dressed individual. He had every designer label on. Everyone. And his car, which was also a nice car, was brought back by the attendant. And I hear him see him and hear him screaming at the attendant and pointing to a little scratch. And the lashon that he uses, he had what you call a meltdown. You know, meltdown? A meltdown. The kloles, Nebuch, that attendant that was over there, got it over the cup. It was mamish. He lost it over the scratch. 2 weeks later, he said. 2 weeks later, my cousin tells me he's in BMG. He by mistake hit a parked car and broke the fender. He found out whose car it is, went into the Beis Medrash, tracked down the owner, and told the owner, I have to tell you, I hit your car. I broke your fender. The fellow looks up from the Gemara and he says, I have my car for driving. If it drives with a broken fender the way it does with a fixed fender, it's fine. You don't owe me anything, Meichalach. No problem. It drives just as good with a broken fender. Meirav Rabbi say that's what Torah can do for a person. And that's what Anivus does for a person. And that's Moshe Hoya Onav Mikol Adam. The reason that Loi Kam Navi K'Moshe, the reason that nobody was like Moshe Rabbeinu, was because Moshe Rabbeinu, you think he didn't know? Let's explain. I want to psychologically for a minute. When a person thinks, I don't know how to do this, I don't know how to do that, a person, God forbid, Chas v'Shalom, thinks he's a loser. Zelo anivus. That's not anivus. When a person knows, I can go talk to the Rebbeinu Shalom. Moshe was taller than everybody. The Mishnah Perkei Avos says, right, that a person, Eizu Gibor HaKoivus Es Yitzroi, Eize Mechuber Mechaber Es Acherim, right, Eizu Chacham Olam Kol Adam. Moshe Rabbeinu knew he had these qualities, but he took absolutely no credit for them. I'm taller than others, I have milas other people because the Rebbeinu Shalom gave it to me. They gave it to me. And therefore he was humble because of what he had. The more he had going for him, the more milas he had, the more humble he was. Because nothing he took credit for. Baruch Hashem ich mach Geld, Baruch Hashem I have this, but everything comes from you, Rebbeinu Shalom. What am I? I'm just a kli. I'm just a kli. And therefore, the more I'm a kli, I'm in your rishus, the more I'm in rishus, the more siyata d'shmai I have. The person gets all of the hashpos tavis because Rabbi Chaim ben Gornish. And when you have that attitude, so then you don't get upset if somebody says something wrong to you, if somebody cuts you off, if somebody bangs your bumper. Azma, what's the big deal? And someone said something negative to you. Azma, what's the big deal? Anyway, it's Rebbeinu Shalom, you give me all these koiches,